Hello students, welcome back. We're going to continue today with Carbohydrates Part 8. Carbohydrates Part 8. Let me start on something here. I'm going to explain something to you that will help you a lot in the future. Okay. Now, we've talked about a lot of different types of sugars. We've talked about things like glucose. We talk about aldoses. We talk about saccharides. We've talked about hexoses, ketoses, disaccharides. Just a lot of different types of sugar. Furanoses, pyranoses, lots of different, all of these represent a sugar of some sort. But now what I need to give you all is a general term for sugar, a general term for any type of sugar: hexose, pentose, pyranose, aldose, and all of the sugar derivatives. We've talked about alditols. We've talked about those. We've talked about uronic acids. We've talked about, alduronic acids. We've talked about aldonic acids. These are sugar derivatives. Aldonic acids, all types. We talked about lots of different types of sugars. Now I'm going to give you a term that represents any sugar or its derivative. And that term is glyco. The root word glyco means sugar. Any type of sugar. Glyco. And so if I ever use the word here, glycose will represent any sugar. It could be fructose, it could be glucose, it could be mannitol, it could be any sugar. Any sugar. It could be sucrose, it could be a disaccharide. Glyco is the root word for sugar. It denotes sugar, and our general term for sugar is going to be glycose, a glycose. Okay. Now let's start with a new sugar derivative here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw a generic sugar. Okay. Okay. This is going to be a generic sugar here. And we're going to call this sugar glycose, since we don't know which one it is. Just a generic sugar. And we'll put the OH on this sugar here. We'll show the ring carbon, or the ring oxygen, and the anomeric OH. That's going to be a generic sugar. Now, if you take a sugar can enter into a reaction with an alcohol. And let's just make ourselves an alcohol. And this alcohol is going to be, any alcohol. And what's going to happen here, the electrons on this alcohol are going to attack the anomeric carbon, and then you're going to make a new sugar, or you're going to make a new product here. And here we're going to have our glycose, and now the glycose is going to be attached to the alcohol. Now, this new product that we formed is called a glycoside, because we started with a glycose, a glycoside. And so a glycoside is going to be any reaction between the anomeric carbon of any sugar and an alcohol. And this is a glycoside. Since this is a methyl group here, if we want to name this glycoside using the methyl group, we would call this a methyl glycoside. Okay. Now, a question for you all. I'm going to ask you all a question and see if you can figure this out. What if the sugar, what if the glycose, what if it were galactose? What would be the name of the glycoside if we saw it? If we have galactose, and galactose reacts with methanol, and this sugar is methanol here, what would be the name of the glycoside? Say that again. Methyl galactoside. Right, that would be the specific name, a methyl galactoside. And so this is the general principle. This is the general reaction. Now I'm going to show you a specific reaction using a specific sugar. Everyone okay with this? Okay. See, now what happens here, you lose this OH here on the anomeric carbon and you lose this H here, correct? And what do you think they're going to form? Exactly. And so this is a dehydration synthesis reaction, just like we did in all polymerizations, like when we made the peptide bond. And so this reaction is called a dehydration. I didn't want to get into that, but this is a dehydration synthesis reaction. Oh my goodness. What were you supposed to remind me? Repeat the question. The question was, what happens to the other OH on the glycose? And so the answer is, since this is a dehydration synthesis reaction, you lose that OH joins with the hydrogen from the alcohol to form water. And it's a dehydration synthesis reaction. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes. So, exactly. I have the water up here. The water shouldn't be up here. Water should be down here, plus H2O. Water should be down here with the products. And the question was, shouldn't water be a product of the reaction and not a reactant? And the answer is yes. And so we had that drawn in the wrong place. Okay. Is everyone okay with this? This is a general formation of a glycoside. Now we're going to do a specific glycoside. We're going to start with glucose and methanol. What's the product going to be? Anybody? If we start with glucose and methanol, what's going to be the product? What glucoside? Methyl glucoside plus water. Okay. Now everybody know where we're going now. So let's just do this reaction. And so we're going to start with glucose here. CH2OH. So that's up, down, and let's do alpha. And I'm going to put the H's here, the hydrogens. Okay, now, if we wanted to name this, put the whole name of this, it would be, what would we do? Alpha, D, glucopyranose. That would be the entire name, but we don't really care about all of that right now. So if it's okay with you all, I'm just going to name this alpha D glucose. Is everyone okay with that? So we're going to have alpha D glucose. That's going to be a reactant plus, I'm going to make this a different color, plus methanol so we'll put here methanol okay, and now we're going to make the product. And whenever you form a glycoside, the anomeric carbon keeps its orientation. It keeps its orientation. So up, down here is going to be OCH3 plus we're going to have H O H. I don't like HOH right there because I need to write something right there. I'm going to put HOH right here. Plus HOH. Okay. Now, there's our product. We just have to name this compound that we formed. Okay. Can anyone name this for us? Anyone name this product? Almost. She said her answer was alpha D glucoside, and that's almost right, but we missed something. Alpha D methyl glucoside. So whenever a sugar joins with an alcohol, especially that anomeric carbon joins with an alcohol, you form something here. And if you notice here, we have an OR, an OR, and an R. And so this used to be a hemiacetal, but now that we've put another R there, this is a full acetal. So whenever that anomeric carbon joins to another R group, you make an acetal. Okay. Okay. Over here on glucose, you have, the question was, can you go over that again? And over here on glucose, we have an OR, an OH, and an R. So glucopyranose is a hemiacetal. Remember, any aldehyde, when you put an aldehyde in the ring, you make a hemiacetal. Now when you make a glycoside out of it, when you add an R group to that, when an alcohol reacts with that anomeric OH, it converts it into an acetal. So all glycosides are acetals. All glycosides are acetals. Okay?
Would you have to add that it's a carbonate somewhere in there when you do the final name?
You don't have to because, well, you could. You could. If you wanted to name this completely, that's what I don't really want to get into because it really just gets really complicated. You can call this alpha D methyl glucopyranoside. You could do that. That's the full name. But I really don't want to get into that right now because that's just too much to try to remember. But does that make sense? That will not be on the test. Okay? Now, so to make a glycoside, you have to have a glycose, a sugar, and what else? And what other thing? An alcohol. Okay? Let's do another reaction. Let's see if you all can figure this out. Oh no, what did I do wrong? Okay. Okay, this time let's draw I need to tell you one thing. Well, I guess I could do it on the next slide, but I want to do it now. Since we formed a glycoside, we give a special name for this bond right here. The bond between the sugar and the alcohol. And we formed a glycoside. One of you can figure out what the name of this bond should be. We formed a glycoside. What should be the name of the bond between the sugar and the alcohol? Exactly. Say that louder. A glycosidic bond. Exactly. Does that make sense? A glycosidic bond. Okay. Now, I'm going to draw something here. Okay, I'm going to draw our sugar now. We're going to do another reaction. This is going to be the sugar. Up, down, up, down, and we'll put it, and we'll make this one, we'll go down with it. Let's see. Yeah, let's just go down with it. Down. Okay. I'm not going to put the hydrogens. Is that okay? So what's the name of this sugar? Okay, beta-D-glucopyranose. That's almost right. Somebody else want to try it? It's not beta-D-glucopyranose. It's alpha-D-glucopyranose. Why is it alpha? Because it's going down. So this one is alpha-D. Can I just put, even though it is glucopyranose, I'm just going to put alpha-D-glucose for now. So, for this, yeah, if you put, well, I would probably, if it's on the match, his question was, what would we put on the test? If it's on the matching part, I'll just make both answers acceptable. And you'd only have to put the full name, the full ring form name, if I ask you for it, if it's on the essay part. Okay, this is going to be the glycose. Now, let's make the alcohol. Up, down, and down. What's the name of that compound? It's the same compound. Now, I said we were going to make an alcohol. Is this an alcohol? What functional group do alcohols have? Does this have an OH? Yes, this is an alcohol. This is a polyhydroxy alcohol. It has many OHs. It's an alcohol in a lot of places. So glucose is a sugar and glucose is a polyhydroxy alcohol. Everyone okay with that? So now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to change. Now, so if this is going to be our alcohol, which O on the alcohol, let's number them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Which OH on the alpha-D glucose is going to attack the anomeric carbon? Which OH? Any of them can. It doesn't matter. Any of them can. But we'll just, in our reaction, we're going to use the 4-OH. 5 could now. There's nothing wrong with 5 doing it. It rarely happens. But 5 couldn't. Yeah, 5 couldn't. 5 doesn't have an OH. Because 5-OH has already joined with 1 here. Remember this? So 5 doesn't have an OH. So 4 does. And so I'm going to make the OH on 4 another color so we can just see things. So this is going to be the reaction. The 4 from the OH is going to attack the anomeric carbon, and we're going to make our product. Okay? And I'm going to just make this a little smaller here. I'm going to group this so I can make it smaller. Okay, now I'm going to show you the product. And you should be able to draw it yourselves without me saying anything. So we have O here. This is going to be the glycose. Up, down, and then this is going to go. Now, I'm going to do something here. Well, I'm just going to draw it as a curve right now, and then I'll explain something later. And so I'm going to put here, and then this is going to be our O. And then we're going to go up to our 4 carbon. Up, down, and we'll keep this one down. It doesn't matter what that one is. Okay. And so we have our glycose, and we have our glycose is alpha D glucose, and our alcohol, and we have our alcohol. Our alcohol is alpha D glucose, and we've just joined them together. Okay. Before we name this compound, I need to know what type of bond is this here? What type of bond is between the glycose and the alcohol? A glycosidic bond. Now what we're going to do, we're going to name this compound. So I'm going to move everything up so I can have room. We're going to give you the general name first. Okay, move that up. I'm going to put the name on the side because I have more room over there. I'm going to move this over so I can put it on the side. Okay. Now, this molecule that we formed, it is a glycoside. It's a glycoside because we have a glycose joined to an alcohol. Does that make sense? Very good. Also, we can be more specific. This is I don't know why that's going there. This is a glycosyl. Because the alcohol is a glycosyl unit. So this is a glycosyl glycoside. And so this would be our glycosyl unit. Like before, this was a methyl group, but now this is a glycosyl unit because this is the alcohol is a glycose too. So this is a glycosyl glycoside. Does that make sense? Because that kind of has to make sense before we can get the name of it. And so these are general names. Now let's go to the specific name of this glycoside. This glycoside, I guess another general one. This is an alpha D glucoside. And alpha because the glycosidic bond is alpha. An alpha D glucoside. Does that make sense? I'm doing all of this to get to the specific name of this one. Okay. Yeah, kind of, but they're general, but they're becoming more specific. And so we could name this compound alpha 1,4 because the bond is between 1 and 4, alpha 1,4 D-glucosyl glucoside. Okay? That's the specific name. That is a specific name for this. But because that's kind of cumbersome, scientists come up with another way to name this. They just call it glucose, because that's the first sugar. Glucose alpha 1,4 glucose. And that's the easiest way to name it. Just put glucose, glucose, and in the middle, put what type of bond it is. So this is a disaccharide. So all disaccharides are glycosides. Okay. I'm going to put an H here. Can anyone tell me, y'all are still writing, what's the name of this functional group right here? What's the name of that functional group? Okay, that is the anomeric carbon, but that functional group here we have an OR, an R, an OR, and an H. What functional group has those four things? An acetal, an acetal. Remember, whenever you join an R to an alcohol, the anomeric carbon of the alcohol, you form an acetal. So this is an acetal. Okay. Now we can see we just have two glucoses joined together by an alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond. This is a disaccharide. Does anyone know? You should have done this in Biology 101. You did a lab using this sugar. Well, you started with starch, but you had to make this sugar. Does anybody know what this, a dimer of glucose is called? Anybody remember? They have to make this when they're making beer and things like that. Not fructose. Say that again. It is. It is maltose. Exactly. And so you have to malt your beer. And so what you'll do, you'll start with starch, and you'll add maltase, and it'll just break it up into those dimers, and that way the yeast can more effectively utilize the sugar. And so this is maltose. Maltose is just a dimer of glucose. And if you have lots of just alpha 1,4 linkages, the polymer of this is going to be called, the polymer of alpha 1,4 glucose is called amylose.
But the two of them put together without that's maltose?
That's, yeah, if it's an alpha linkage, if the anomeric alpha carbon is going down, that's maltose. It's a dimer. It's maltose. If that anomeric carbon is going up, it's not maltose anymore. That dimer is not called maltose. What's the polymer of glucose called where the anomeric carbon is going up to 4? Cellulose is the polymer, exactly. And the dimer would be cellobiose. That's the dimer. But we'll talk about that later. And so this is a disaccharide. All disaccharides are glycosides. Okay? Everyone okay with that? It's a lot of information. Put your notes away. Put your notes away. Okay. Let's see here. We're going to do just a few questions here. this root word, oh, make sure everyone puts that notes away. This root word denotes sugars. Glyco denotes sugar. Very good, very good. Let's see. What is the name of a reaction in which you join two things together, you join two molecules together, and you take water away from them? What's the general name for that reaction? Dehydration synthesis. Very good, very good. What is the name of the product? What is the name of the product when you join a sugar, the anomeric carbon of a sugar, to an alcohol? What is the name of that product? A glycoside. A glycoside. Okay? The anomeric carbon, the functional group, well, on the anomeric carbon end of an aldose, we have a hemiacetal. If we add an R group, or if we add an alcohol to that anomeric carbon, what new functional group do we create? We create an acetal. Okay? Everyone okay with that? If you join glucose to another glucose, what is the name of that new disaccharide? Yes, that's the name of it. Glucose 1,4, alpha 1,4, or glucose alpha 1,4 glucose. That's the scientific name of the disaccharide. What's the common name of that disaccharide? Maltose. Maltose is the common name. Yes, all of those right. There are lots of ways to name these things, or these disaccharides. Lots of different ways to name them. What's the name of the bond between a glycose and an alcohol? A glycosidic bond. What's the name of the polymer of glucose with alpha 1,4 linkage? What's the name of that polymer? Amylose. Amylose. What's the name? The last question. What's the name of the polymer when you have beta 1,4 linkages of glucose? Cellulose. Have a great day. You all seem to have learned. Okay. We have to synchronize.